Taman stood at attention near the rear of the massive reception hall, his eyes constantly moving across the crowd. The Valtharian diplomatic cruiser was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Above him, the ceiling showed the stars outside, making him feel like he was floating in space itself. He was part of Earth's security team for the first official contact with the Valtharian Empire. After 3 years of long-distance communication, both sides had finally agreed to meet face-to-face. Taman had spent 6 months training for this assignment, learning about Valtharian customs and protocols. But nothing had really prepared him for the reality of standing in a room with dozens of aliens. The Valtharians were tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered in shades of silver and pale blue. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, with pupils that shifted between different colors. They moved with a grace that made them seem like they were dancing even when they were just walking. Taman adjusted his formal uniform and tried to look professional. He was only 28 years old, one of the younger members of the security detail. His commander had chosen him because of his quick reflexes and his ability to stay calm under pressure. Right now, he needed both of those qualities. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. Across the room, Ambassador Kyung-soo was speaking with a group of Valtharian officials. The conversation seemed to be going well. Translators on both sides worked to make sure everyone understood each other. Taman could hear the strange musical quality of the Valtharian language mixing with Korean and English. Then he saw her. Princess Hayrin entered through a doorway that appeared in the crystal wall. She was younger than most of the other Valtharians in the room, and she wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself. 2 guards walked beside her, their hands never far from their weapons. The room became quieter as people noticed the princess. She smiled politely and began moving through the crowd, greeting the human delegation. Taman watched her carefully, not because he suspected her of anything, but because it was his job to notice everything. To his surprise, Princess Hayrin walked directly toward him. Her guards tensed, but she waved them back. She stopped a few feet away and tilted her head in what he had learned was a Valtharian gesture of friendly curiosity. "You are one of the protectors," she said in careful English. Her voice was soft but clear. "Yes, Your Highness," Taman replied, bowing slightly the way he had been taught. "You watch everything very carefully. Do you think we would harm your people here?" Taman chose his words with care. "I think that peaceful meetings like this one are precious. I watch carefully because I want to help protect that peace." Princess Hayrin's eyes changed from silver to a warm gold color. He would later learn this meant she was pleased. "A good answer. What is your name?" "Taman, Your Highness. I hope we can speak again, Taman. I want to learn more about your people." Before he could respond, she moved on to greet other members of the delegation. Taman returned to his careful observation of the room. The whole conversation had lasted less than a minute, but it had felt significant somehow. The reception continued for another hour. Food was served, though Taman didn't eat while on duty. The Valtharians seemed genuinely interested in human culture, asking many questions. Some of the humans looked nervous, but most seemed excited about this historic meeting. Taman noticed something wrong just seconds before it happened. A Valtharian server moved through the crowd with a tray of drinks, but his movements were too stiff, too focused. The server's eyes were fixed on Princess Hayrin with an intensity that didn't match his job. Taman started moving before his mind had fully processed what he was seeing. His training took over. He pushed through the crowd as politely but quickly as he could. The server set down his tray and reached inside his robes. Time seemed to slow down. Taman saw the weapon come out. It was sleek and silver, shaped like nothing he had seen before. The server raised it and pointed it directly at Princess Hayrin, who was talking with a human diplomat and hadn't noticed the danger. Taman ran. He heard someone shout in alarm. The Valtharian guards were turning, reaching for their own weapons, but they were too far away. Everything was happening too fast. The assassin fired. A bolt of bright red energy shot across the room. Taman threw himself forward, putting his body between the princess and the blast. The energy hit him in the chest and pain exploded through his entire body. It felt like being struck by lightning and burned by fire at the same time. He didn't stop. He crashed into Princess Hayrin, pushing her down and covering her with his body. The assassin fired again. The second shot hit Taman in the shoulder. He screamed but held his position. The third shot hit his back. Then the Valtharian guards were there. He heard the sound of their weapons, different from the assassin's gun. He heard shouting in multiple languages. He felt hands pulling at him, trying to move him. Princess Hayrin was saying something, her voice high and frightened. Taman tried to tell her it was okay, that she was safe, but he couldn't make his mouth form words. The pain was incredible, worse than anything he had ever felt. His vision was going dark around the edges. Someone rolled him onto his back. He saw Ambassador Kyung-soo's face above him, looking terrified. He saw other members of the security team forming a protective circle. He saw Princess Hayrin being pulled away by her guards, and she was looking back at him with those color-changing eyes now showing pure white, which he somehow knew meant shock and horror. Taman heard someone calling for medical help. He felt his body being lifted. The beautiful crystal ceiling full of stars was spinning above him. He thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about how strange it was that he might die on an alien ship, in a place humans had only dreamed about visiting a few years ago. His last thought before darkness took him was simple and clear. He had done his job. The princess was safe. That was what mattered. Then everything went black, and Taman knew nothing more. Taman woke up 3 days later in a room that glowed with soft green light. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his chest and shoulder, making him gasp. "Please stay still," a voice said in Korean. A woman in a white coat approached his bed. She was human, which surprised him. "I'm Dr. Sun-hee. I've been overseeing your treatment. You're in the medical facility on the Baltherian flagship." "The princess," Taman said, his voice rough. "Is she safe?" Dr. Sun-hee smiled. "She's perfectly safe, thanks to you. You're a hero, Taman. Everyone is talking about what you did." Over the next few hours, Dr. Sun-hee explained everything. The energy weapon had nearly killed him. His heart had stopped twice. The Valtherians had used their advanced medical technology to save his life, but he would need several weeks to fully recover. The assassin had been part of a radical group that opposed any contact between humans and Valtherians. He was the only attacker, and he had been killed by the royal guards. "You have a visitor who has been waiting to see you," Dr. Sun-hee said. "Princess Hayrin has come every day since the incident." Before Taman could respond, the door opened and Princess Hayrin entered. She looked different than she had at the reception. Her robes were simpler, and her face showed deep concern. When she saw that Taman was awake, her eyes shifted to bright yellow. "You're awake," she said, walking quickly to his bedside. "I was so worried. The doctors said you might not survive." "I'm harder to kill than I look, Your Highness," Taman said, trying to smile. Princess Hayrin shook her head. "You should not have done what you did. You could have died. You almost did die. It was my job to protect the people at that meeting. That included you. Your job was to protect the human delegation, not me. I have my own guards." Taman thought about this. She was right, technically. His orders had been to watch over the human diplomats, not the Valtherians. But in that moment he hadn't thought about orders or duty. He had just seen someone in danger and acted. "Maybe," he said, "but I couldn't just stand there and watch someone die. It doesn't matter if you're human or Valtherian." Princess Hayrin stared at him for a long moment. Her eyes shifted through several colors, emotions he couldn't read. "You are a strange person, Taman, but I think maybe that is a good thing." She visited him every day after that. Sometimes they talked about Earth and the Valtherian Empire. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. Taman learned that Princess Hayrin loved learning about other cultures. She asked him hundreds of questions about human history, art, and daily life. He found himself looking forward to her visits. 2 weeks after he woke up, everything changed. Ambassador Kyung-soo came to see him with an expression that mixed excitement and worry. "Queen Yuna is coming," the ambassador said. "She arrived on the flagship an hour ago. She wants to meet you." Taman's stomach tightened. Queen Yuna was the ruler of the entire Valtherian Empire. She controlled hundreds of worlds and billions of people, and she was coming to see him, a simple security officer from Earth. Dr. Sun-hee helped him into a clean uniform. His injuries were healing well, but he still moved carefully. He was standing by his bed when the queen arrived. She was taller than her daughter, and she moved with absolute confidence. Her robes were deep purple, and they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Her eyes were a solid silver color that never changed. 2 guards followed her along with Princess Hayrin and several officials. Taman bowed deeply, the way Ambassador Kyung-soo had taught him. "Rise," Queen Yuna said. Her voice was powerful, commanding. I have come to speak with the human who saved my daughter's life. I only did what anyone would do, Your Majesty, Taemin said. No, the Queen said firmly. Most would have protected themselves first. My own guards, trained for years, were too slow to act. But you, a human who had never seen a Valtherian weapon before, threw yourself into danger without hesitation. This is not something that anyone would do. She stepped closer to him. Taemin forced himself to meet her eyes, though it was frightening. In our culture, Queen Yuna continued, there is an ancient law. When someone saves a member of the royal family from certain death, they create a life debt. The saved person owes their life to their savior. This debt must be honored. Your Majesty, I don't want any reward, Taemin said. I'm just glad Princess Hayrin is safe. This is not about what you want, the Queen said, though her tone was not unkind. It is about what is right according to our laws and customs. My daughter owes you her life. I owe you my daughter's life. This debt must be acknowledged. She turned to face the others in the room. I hereby declare that Taemin of Earth has a life debt claim on the royal family. As payment of this debt, and to ensure my daughter's continued safety, I decree that Taemin will remain with the Valtherian Empire as Princess Hayrin's personal guardian. The room went silent. Taemin felt like the floor had disappeared under him. Your Majesty, I have duties on Earth, my family. You will be allowed to communicate with your family, Queen Yuna said, and you will be compensated well. But the life debt must be honored. My daughter needs someone who will protect her without thought for their own safety. You have proven you are that person. Ambassador Kyungsoo stepped forward. Your Majesty, with respect, Taemin is a citizen of Earth. We cannot simply give him to you. I am not asking permission, Queen Yuna said, and her voice became cold. I am stating what will happen. However, I am willing to make this an official diplomatic exchange. Taemin will represent Earth in my daughter's service. He will be a bridge between our peoples. The ambassador looked at Taemin, clearly troubled. What do you say, Taemin? This is your choice. But Taemin knew it wasn't really a choice. Refusing would insult the Queen and possibly damage the relationship between Earth and the Valtherian Empire. Everything they had worked for could be destroyed. He looked at Princess Hayrin. She was watching him with anxious eyes. He could see she felt guilty about this situation. I accept, Taemin said quietly. I will serve as Princess Hayrin's guardian. Queen Yuna nodded, satisfied. Good. You will move to the palace world within the month. Commander Jiwoo will oversee your training in our customs and combat techniques. After the Queen left, Princess Hayrin approached him. I'm sorry, she whispered. My mother, she believes this is the right thing. Our culture is very strict about honor and debt. It's not your fault, Taemin said, though his heart felt heavy. He was being taken from everything he knew, everyone he loved. His old life was over. A new one in an alien empire far from home was beginning. He just hoped he could survive it. 6 months had passed since Taemin arrived on the Valtherian homeworld. He stood in the Crystal Palace garden, watching the 3 moons rise over the silver trees. Everything here was beautiful, but he had never felt more alone. The palace was enormous, with thousands of rooms spread across multiple towers. Taemin had his own quarters, large and comfortable by human standards. But they felt like a cage. He was always watched, always judged, always reminded that he was the only human among thousands of Valtherians. Guard Taemin, a sharp voice said behind him. He turned to see Commander Jiwoo approaching. The commander of the Royal Guard had made it clear from day one that he didn't trust humans. You are 3 minutes late for evening inspection. I apologize, Commander, Taemin said, bowing. He had learned to bow a lot here. Your apologies mean nothing if you cannot follow simple schedules, Jiwoo said coldly. How can you protect the princess if you cannot even arrive on time? Taemin bit back his frustration. He had been on time every day for 6 months except today, when he had gotten lost in the palace's shifting corridors. But arguing would only make things worse. The training sessions with Commander Jiwoo were brutal. Valtherians were stronger and faster than humans. Their weapons and fighting styles were completely different from anything Taemin had learned on Earth. Every day he trained until his body ached. And every day Jiwoo found more things to criticize. But the physical training wasn't the hardest part. The Valtherian court was full of nobles who saw him as a curiosity at best and an insult at worst. Lady Mi-young, one of the Queen's advisors, had been particularly vocal about her opposition to his presence. A human protecting royalty, she had said loudly at a court gathering last week. What message does this send? That our own people are not capable? That we need lesser beings to keep us safe? Taemin had said nothing, standing at attention behind Princess Hayrin's chair as protocol demanded. But he had felt every eye in the room on him, judging him. His relationship with Princess Hayrin had become complicated. She tried to be kind, but she was busy with her own lessons and duties. Sometimes days would pass where they barely spoke. When they did talk, there was an awkwardness that hadn't been there in the medical facility. She seemed to feel guilty about his situation, and he didn't know how to tell her it wasn't her fault without making it worse. One evening, Advisor Boram found Taemin sitting alone in the guard quarters. Boram was older than most Valtharians at court, and he had always been polite to Taemin. "You look troubled, young guardian," Boram said gently. "I don't belong here," Taemin admitted. It was the first time he had said it out loud. "I try to learn your customs, your language, your ways. But I'm always wrong, always different. Being different is not the same as being wrong," Boram said. "Many here have never met a human before. You challenge their understanding of the universe. That frightens them. I don't want to frighten anyone. I just want to do my job." "Then do your job," Boram said simply. "Show them what humans are capable of. Actions speak louder than prejudice." The chance to prove himself came sooner than expected. 3 weeks later, Princess Hayrin was scheduled to attend a ceremony at one of the palace temples. Taemin accompanied her along with 2 Valtharian guards. They were walking through a quiet corridor when Taemin noticed something wrong. The corridor was too quiet. The usual servants and officials were nowhere to be seen. His hand moved to his weapon. "Get back!" he shouted, pushing Princess Hayrin behind him, just as 3 figures dropped from the ceiling. They were Valtharians, dressed in dark clothing and carrying weapons. For a moment, Taemin thought it was another assassination attempt. His heart raced as he drew his weapon and fired at the first attacker. His shot hit the attacker's weapon, destroying it. The other 2 Valtharian guards engaged the other attackers. The fight was fast and violent. Taemin moved to shield Princess Hayrin, firing carefully to avoid hitting the guards. One of the attackers lunged at the princess. Taemin intercepted, taking a knife strike to his arm. He ignored the pain and disarmed the attacker with a move he had learned from Commander Jiwoo. Within seconds, all 3 attackers were subdued, except they weren't real attackers. As they stood up, Taemin saw Commander Jiwoo watching from a doorway, his eyes glowing with satisfaction. "A test," Jiwoo announced. "I wanted to see how you would react to danger." Taemin felt anger surge through him. "You could have hurt the princess. What if I had shot to kill? What if—" "But you didn't," Jiwoo interrupted. "You controlled your fire. You protected first and attacked second. You even used Valtharian combat techniques properly. Perhaps you are not as useless as I thought." Princess Hayrin stepped forward, her eyes flashing red with anger. "Commander, this was reckless and dangerous. I do not appreciate being used as bait for your tests." "Your Highness, I apologize," Jiwoo said, bowing deeply. "But I needed to know if this human could truly protect you. Now I know he can." Later that evening, Princess Hayrin came to Taemin's quarters. It was the first time she had visited him there. "I'm sorry about today," she said. "Jiwoo should not have done that." "He was just doing his job," Taemin said, wrapping a bandage around his injured arm. "Making sure I could do mine. You're angry." "I can see it," Taemin sighed. "I'm frustrated. I've been here 6 months, and I'm still just the human. The outsider. No matter what I do, I'll never really be one of you." "No," Princess Hayrin said quietly. "You won't, but maybe that's not a bad thing." She sat down across from him. "I've been thinking a lot lately. About what you said when we first met. About protecting peace. I've been so worried about making you comfortable. About apologizing for my mother's decision that I forgot why you're here. Not because of debt or obligation. But because you saw someone in danger and acted without thinking of yourself. I don't feel very heroic right now," Taemin said. "Heroism isn't about feeling good," she replied. "It's about doing what's right even when it's hard. You're here, far from your home, trying your best in a world that doesn't always welcome you. That takes real courage." Taemin looked at her and saw something different. Not guilt or obligation, but genuine respect. "I need to tell you something," she continued. "I've been investigating since the assassination attempt. I don't think that attacker acted alone. There are others in the court who oppose the alliance with Earth. Commander Jiwoo's test today made me realize we need to work together. Really work together if we're going to stop them. You think there's a conspiracy? Taman asked. I think my mother's decision to bring you here made some powerful people very angry, and I think they'll try again. For the first time since arriving on the Valtherian homeworld, Taman felt like he had a real purpose. He wasn't just a trophy or a symbol. He was needed. Then we'll stop them, he said. Together. Princess Hayrin smiled and her eyes glowed warm gold.
Together, she agreed.
The transport ship descended through the atmosphere of Valor, a frontier colony world at the edge of Valtherian space. Taman stood beside Princess Hayrin, watching through the viewport as they approached the settlement below. You shouldn't be here, Commander Jiwoo said for the third time that morning. These border worlds are too dangerous for a royal visit. My people need to see that the crown cares about them, Princess Hayrin replied firmly. Besides, I have you and Taman to protect me. What could go wrong? Taman noticed Jiwoo glance at him with something that might have been respect. In the 3 months since the incident at the temple, the commander had become less hostile. He still didn't fully trust Taman, but at least he acknowledged his skills. Valor was a mining colony, home to about 10,000 Valtherians who extracted rare crystals from deep underground. The settlement was rough and practical, nothing like the elegant Crystal Palace. As they stepped off the ship, Taman could smell the dust and minerals in the air. The colony administrator, a nervous Valtherian named Gi Wan, greeted them. Your Highness, we are honored by your visit, but I must warn you, there have been reports of separatist activity in the region. General Hyojin's forces have been spotted near the northern mountains. General Hyojin, Princess Hayrin said quietly to Taman. She used to be one of my mother's most trusted officers. She believes humans are a threat to our empire. When the alliance was announced, she left the military and formed her own group. They spent the morning touring the mining facilities and meeting with the colonists. Taman noticed that many of the miners looked worried. They were glad to see the princess, but fear shadowed their faces. These people were far from the empire's protection, vulnerable to attack. During lunch at the administrator's residence, Taman stepped outside to check the perimeter. That's when he saw the first sign of trouble, smoke rising from the eastern edge of the settlement. Alert, he shouted, running back inside. We're under attack. Explosions rocked the settlement. Through the windows, Taman could see armed soldiers pouring into the streets. They wore unmarked armor, but he knew they were separatists. This wasn't a random raid. They had come for the princess. We need to get to the ship, Jiwoo said, drawing his weapon. But when they reached the landing pad, their transport was engulfed in flames. Someone had destroyed it with a missile strike. Alternate plan, Taman said, his military training kicking in. We need to reach the communications tower. If we can send a distress signal, the Queen's fleet will come. The tower is on the other side of the settlement, Jiwoo said. We'll have to fight through the entire attack force. Then that's what we do, Princess Hayrin said. Lead the way, Taman. They moved through the settlement in a tight formation. Taman took point using his smaller size to scout ahead. The Valtherian guards followed, with Princess Hayrin protected in the center. They encountered enemy soldiers at every corner. The fighting was intense. Taman found himself using tactics he had learned in Earth's military, combined with Valtherian combat techniques. He directed the guards to use the settlement's architecture for cover, setting up crossfire positions that caught the separatists by surprise. Where did you learn to fight like this? Jiwoo asked during a brief pause in the action. Human military tactics, Taman replied. We're used to being outnumbered and outgunned. You learned to be creative. They picked up more defenders as they moved. Colonial guards and armed miners joined them, forming a larger group. Taman found himself naturally falling into a leadership role, coordinating their defense and planning their route. But the separatists had them surrounded. They were pinned down in a warehouse with enemy forces closing in from all sides. We're not going to make it to the tower, one of the guards said. Taman looked around the warehouse. He saw mining equipment, barrels of chemicals, and heavy machinery. An idea formed in his mind. It was risky, but it might work. We don't need to reach the tower, he said. We just need to create a big enough signal that the fleet will investigate. He quickly explained his plan. They would use the mining explosives to create a massive detonation in the warehouse district. The energy signature would be visible from orbit. It was dangerous, but it would work. That's insane, Jiwoo said. We'll barely have time to get clear. Do you have a better idea? Taman asked. Jiwoo looked at him for a long moment, then smiled grimly. No, let's do it. They worked quickly, setting up the explosives while the guards held off the separatists. Taemin's hands moved with practiced efficiency, wiring the charges together. Princess Hayrin helped, following his instructions without question. 30 seconds until detonation, Taemin announced. Everyone out, they ran! Behind them, the warehouse erupted in a massive explosion that lit up the sky. The blast wave knocked them down and debris rained around them. Taemin covered Princess Hayrin with his body, feeling pieces of metal and stone bounce off his armor. When the dust settled, they were alive but surrounded. General Hyojin herself stepped forward, her weapon pointed at Princess Hayrin. Your Highness, the general said coldly, your mother's alliance with the humans ends today. With you dead, the treaty will collapse. You're wrong, Princess Hayrin said, standing up with dignity. Killing me won't stop progress. It will only make you a murderer. General Hyojin's finger tightened on the trigger, but before she could fire, the sky filled with light. The Queen's fleet had arrived, drawn by the explosion. Massive warships descended and Valtharian soldiers poured out. The separatists tried to fight, but they were overwhelmed within minutes. General Hyojin was captured and her forces surrendered. Queen Yuna herself came to the colony. She walked through the ruins of the settlement, her face showing rare emotion. When she reached her daughter, she pulled Princess Hayrin into a tight embrace. You could have been killed, the Queen said. But I wasn't, Princess Hayrin replied. Taemin and Commander Jiwoo kept me safe. The Queen turned to Taemin. His armor was scorched and dented. Blood from several minor wounds stained his uniform. He looked exhausted but stood at attention. You led the defense of this colony, Queen Yuna said. You protected my daughter and saved countless lives. Your human tactics impressed even my most experienced commanders. I just did what needed to be done, Your Majesty, Taemin said. No, the Queen said. You did what few could have done. You proved that humans and Valtharians can fight side by side as equals. She turned to address the gathered soldiers and colonists. Let it be known that Taemin of Earth has earned the respect of the Valtharian Empire. He is not just a guardian. He is a hero. Later, as medical teams treated the wounded, Princess Hayrin sat with Taemin. You saved me again, she said. It's becoming a habit, Taemin replied with a tired smile. When I first met you, I thought you were just brave. But today I learned you're also brilliant. The way you led those people, the way you turned a desperate situation into victory. That was amazing. Taemin felt warmth spread through his chest, not from pride but from belonging. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. We make a good team, he said. Princess Hayrin's eyes glowed bright gold. Yes, she agreed. We do. The grand hall of the Crystal Palace was filled with people. Valtharians and humans stood together, celebrating the strengthened alliance between their worlds. Taemin stood near the back, wearing formal robes that marked him as a hero of the Empire. He still felt uncomfortable with all the attention. 2 months had passed since the attack on Valor. The story had spread across both human and Valtharian space. Taemin had become famous, a symbol of cooperation between species. He received messages daily from humans who saw him as a bridge builder, and from Valtharians who had changed their minds about his kind. But fame brought its own problems. Prince Jae-sung, a distant cousin of Princess Hayrin, had begun speaking openly against her in court. He questioned whether someone who relied on a human guardian was fit to be crowned princess. Your Highness is too influenced by alien thinking, Jae-sung had said at a recent council meeting. The Empire needs strong Valtharian leadership, not this experiment in diversity. Princess Hayrin had handled the criticism with grace, but Taemin could see it bothered her. The political situation was getting more complicated every day. Queen Yuna approached Taemin during the celebration. The crowd parted respectfully as she walked. Come with me, she said. We need to talk privately. She led him to a small balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The 3 moons were full tonight, casting silver light across the alien landscape. Taemin had grown to love this view. You have served my daughter and my empire well, Queen Yuna began. Better than I could have hoped when I made my decree a year ago. Thank you, Your Majesty. I brought you here to tell you something important, the Queen continued. The life debt is paid. You have proven your worth many times over. You have saved my daughter twice, defended a colony, and helped bring our peoples together. I am releasing you from your obligation. Taemin felt his heart skip. Your Majesty? You are free to return to Earth if you wish, she said. No one will stop you. No one will think less of you. You have earned the right to choose your own path. He should have felt relief. For months he had dreamed of going home, of seeing his family again, of walking on Earth's soil, but instead he felt confused. I don't know what to say, he admitted. Say nothing now, Queen Yuna advised. Think about it. I have another offer for you as well. If you choose to stay, I will make you an official ambassador between our worlds, not as a guard, but as an equal partner in building this alliance. The choice is yours, Taimin. For the first time since you came here, it is truly your choice. That night, Taimin couldn't sleep. He walked through the palace gardens, his mind racing. Princess Hayrin found him there, sitting by one of the crystal fountains. I heard about my mother's offer, she said, sitting beside him. Are you going to leave? I don't know, Taimin said honestly. What do you think I should do? I think you should do whatever makes you happy, she replied. You've spent a year doing what others wanted. It's time to do what you want. What do you want? He asked. Princess Hayrin was quiet for a moment. I want you to stay, but not because of duty or debt. I want you to stay because you choose to, because you believe in what we're building together. We've become friends, haven't we? Taimin said. Yes, she smiled. Strange, isn't it? A year ago, we were from different worlds, strangers brought together by violence. Now I can't imagine facing court politics without you standing behind me, making quiet comments that make me want to laugh at inappropriate moments. Taimin laughed. Someone has to keep you from being too serious. I'm going to miss that if you go, she said softly. But I'll understand. Earth is your home. Your family is there. It would be selfish of me to ask you to give all that up. Maybe, Taimin said. But maybe home isn't just one place. Maybe it's where you find purpose and people who matter to you. 3 days later, Queen Yuna arranged for Taimin to visit Earth. He took a fast ship that made the journey in just 2 weeks. When he stepped onto Earth's surface at the Seoul spaceport, he felt overwhelming emotion. The air smelled different, familiar. The gravity felt right. These were his people, his world. His family met him at the spaceport. His mother cried when she saw him. His younger sister, who had been 16 when he left, was now 17 and talked excitedly about starting university. His father gripped his shoulder with pride. They spent a week together. Taimin told them stories about the Valtharian Empire, about Princess Hayrin, about everything he had experienced. They showed him how much Earth had changed in a year. The alliance with the Valtharians had brought new technology, new opportunities. Humans were exploring space like never before. On his last night on Earth, his mother spoke to him privately. You're going back, aren't she said. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Taimin asked. Because you talk about them the way you used to talk about your military unit, she explained. Like they're your people. Like you belong with them. I feel guilty, Taimin admitted. Like I'm abandoning you. His mother shook her head. You're not abandoning anyone. You're building bridges between worlds. How many people get to do something that important? Your father and I are so proud of you. We'll miss you terribly, but we understand. I can visit, Taimin said. And you can come to the Valtharian homeworld. I'll make sure of it. Then that's settled, his mother said, hugging him. Go do what you were meant to do. When Taimin returned to the Crystal Palace, Princess Hayrin was waiting at the landing pad. She tried to look casual, but her eyes kept shifting colors nervously. So? She asked when he approached. I saw my family, Taimin said. I walked through Seoul. I ate Korean food. I remembered everything I loved about Earth. Princess Hayrin's eyes dimmed to gray, the color of sadness. And then I realized something, Taimin continued. Earth will always be part of me, but it's not the only place I belong anymore. This past year I found something here. Purpose, friendship, a chance to make a real difference. Her eyes brightened to yellow. You're staying? I'm staying, Taimin confirmed. But not as a guard bound by debt. I'm staying as Ambassador Taimin if the position is still available. Princess Hayrin smiled wider than he had ever seen. It is absolutely still available. The formal ceremony took place a week later. Taimin stood before Queen Yuna and a crowd of human and Valtharian dignitaries. Representative Insu, Earth's new ambassador, stood witness as Taimin took his oath. I, Taimin of Earth, accept the position of ambassador between the human and Valtharian peoples, he said clearly. I pledge to work for understanding, cooperation, and peace between our worlds. Not because of debt or obligation, but because I believe in a future where our two peoples stand together as equals and friends." The crowd erupted in applause. Humans and Valtherians celebrated together. It was a moment that would be remembered in history books for generations. After the ceremony, Timon found himself standing with Princess Hayrin on the same balcony where Queen Yuna had given him his choice. "Strange to think it's been a year," he said. "A year since I threw myself in front of that energy weapon. Would you do it again?" Princess Hayrin asked. Knowing everything that would happen after? The pain, the isolation, the struggle? Timon thought about it seriously. He thought about the hard months of being an outsider. He thought about the violence and danger. But he also thought about the friends he had made, the respect he had earned, and the purpose he had found. "Yes," he said finally, "I would do it all again, because it led me here." Princess Hayrin's eyes glowed warm gold. "I'm glad, because I have many more diplomatic tours planned, and I refuse to face them without my best friend and ambassador beside me." "Best friend?" Timon teased. "I thought I was your guardian." "You're both," she said, "and so much more. You're proof that different worlds can come together, that strangers can become family, that courage and kindness matter more than where you were born." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the three moons rise. Two people from different worlds, brought together by chance, bound by choice. Behind them, the celebration continued. Ahead of them, a future full of possibilities waited. Timon had made his choice. He had found his place in the universe. And he had learned that home wasn't always where you started. Sometimes it was where you decided to stay, where you found people worth staying for, and where you could make a difference that mattered. He was Ambassador Timon now, bridge between worlds, friend to a princess, and exactly where he was meant to be.